Please, please send someone now." The woman's voice shook so badly that the 911 operator could barely understand her. In the background, there was a strange scratching sound. Slow. Careful. Like somebody dragging their fingers across a wall. "Ma'am, what is your address?" the operator asked. The woman did not answer right away. She was crying too hard. Then she whispered something that made the operator freeze. "He's inside the house, but I already saw him die." For 2 seconds, the line went silent. The operator looked at her partner across the room. Calls like this happened all the time. People scared, confused, panicking. But there was something different about this woman's voice. Something real. "Ma'am," the operator said carefully, "tell me your name." "My name is Emily Carter," the woman whispered. "Please hurry. I think he knows I called." Another scratching sound came through the phone. Closer this time. Emily suddenly gasped. "Oh my God! He's standing outside the bedroom door." The operator's heart started pounding. "Lock the door," she said quickly. "Police are already on the way." Emily's breathing became shaky and fast. "I did lock it," she whispered. "But that won't stop him." The operator opened the emergency map. Officers were only 4 minutes away from the house in a small town outside Ohio. Then a loud bang exploded through the call. Emily screamed. The operator jumped in her chair. "Emily! Emily, what happened?" The woman cried so hard she could barely speak. "He's coming in," she whispered. Then the bedroom door slowly creaked open. The operator listened carefully. At first, she heard nothing. Then a man's voice spoke softly through the phone. "Emily," the voice said, "you shouldn't have called them." The line went dead. That 911 call would later be played hundreds of times by detectives. Even years later, experienced investigators said the recording still haunted them. Not because of the screaming, but because of what police found inside the house only minutes later. 3 days earlier, Emily Carter's life had seemed completely normal. The 28-year-old nurse lived alone in a quiet neighborhood filled with tall trees and old brick houses. People described her as kind, calm, and hardworking. Every morning, she drove to St. Mary's Hospital in her blue Honda while drinking coffee and listening to country music. Nobody imagined fear was slowly growing inside her home. It started with little things. First, Emily noticed her kitchen window open one morning. She clearly remembered locking it before bed, but she told herself she probably forgot. Then she found muddy footprints near the back door. Her friends blamed raccoons or stray dogs. But Emily knew the footprints looked human. A few nights later, she woke up at 2:13 in the morning because she heard footsteps downstairs. Slow footsteps. 1 step at a time. She grabbed her phone and quietly walked through the dark hallway. Every room downstairs was empty. The doors were locked. Nothing was stolen. Still, she could not shake the feeling that someone had been inside the house watching her. The next day at work, her best friend Megan noticed dark circles under Emily's eyes. "You look terrible," Megan joked gently. Emily forced a small smile. "I haven't been sleeping much." Megan laughed. "You need a vacation." Emily almost told her the truth. But she stopped herself. Because deep down, even she knew it sounded crazy. That night, rain slammed against the windows while thunder shook the house. Emily sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, trying to watch television. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered carefully. "Hello." At first, nobody spoke. Then she heard breathing. Slow. Heavy. Emily's stomach tightened. "Who is this?" she demanded. The breathing continued for another 5 seconds. Then the caller whispered one sentence. "I saw you looking for me." The call ended. Emily stared at her phone with shaking hands. She quickly locked every door and window in the house. She even checked the closets and under the beds before trying to sleep. At exactly 2:13 in the morning, she woke up again. This time, she heard something even worse. A soft creaking sound coming from inside her bedroom. Emily slowly opened her eyes and saw the closet door moving by itself in the darkness. Emily froze in bed. The closet door slowly creaked open inch by inch, making a dry scratching sound against the wooden floor. The room was almost completely dark except for flashes of lightning outside the window. For 1 second, Emily thought she saw someone standing inside the closet. A tall shape. Watching her. She grabbed the lamp beside her bed and switched it on so fast that it nearly fell over. The closet was empty. Her clothes hung quietly inside. Nothing moved. Emily let out a shaky breath and pressed both hands against her face. "You're losing your mind," she whispered to herself. But then she noticed something strange. One of her jackets was hanging backward. Emily knew she had not left it like that. She slowly climbed out of bed and walked toward the closet. Her legs felt weak. The floor creaked under every step. Then she saw it. Hidden behind the hanging clothes was a small black cell phone. Not hers. Emily stared at it in horror. The phone screen suddenly lit up. Unknown caller. The phone in the closet was ringing. Emily backed away so fast she nearly tripped over the bed. Her chest tightened as the ringing continued through the silent room. Finally, the ringing stopped. A new message appeared on the screen. "Answer next time." Emily grabbed her own phone with shaking hands and dialed 911, but before the call connected, another message appeared. "Police can't help you." Emily immediately hung up. She did not know why. Maybe fear. Maybe panic. Maybe because somehow the person texting her already knew what she was doing. The next morning, Emily drove straight to the police station carrying the strange phone inside a plastic grocery bag. Rain poured from the gray sky as she hurried through the front doors. Officer Daniel Reeves listened carefully while she explained everything. The open windows. The footsteps. The calls. The phone hidden in her closet. Daniel was in his early 30s and had kind eyes that made people feel safe. But even he looked worried when he examined the phone. "You did the right thing coming here," he said. "Can you find out who owns it?" Emily asked quickly. "We'll try." Daniel handed the phone to another officer for testing. "Until then," he continued, "I think you should stay somewhere else for a few days." Emily nodded. But there was one problem. She had nobody nearby. Her parents lived in Arizona. Most of her friends had families or tiny apartments. Emily hated feeling like a burden. "I'll be okay," she said quietly. Daniel did not look convinced. That evening, Emily returned home with a police patrol driving slowly behind her car. The officers checked every room, every closet, every window. Nothing. No fingerprints. No signs of forced entry. No person hiding inside. One officer even smiled a little. "Probably just someone messing with you." Emily tried to smile back, but her stomach still felt sick. Before leaving, Daniel gave her his card. "If anything happens," he said seriously, "call me immediately." Emily locked the door after they left and leaned against it. The house felt wrong now. Every little sound made her jump. The ticking kitchen clock. The humming refrigerator. Rain tapping against the windows. She turned on every light in the house and tried staying awake by watching movies. At 11:47 p.m., her power suddenly went out. The entire house fell into darkness. Emily gasped. Outside, the whole neighborhood still had electricity. Only her house was dark. Her breathing became fast as she grabbed her phone flashlight. Then she heard it. Footsteps upstairs. Heavy footsteps. Thump, thump, thump. Emily stared toward the ceiling. Someone was walking around above her. She slowly reached for Officer Reeves' card on the table. But before she could grab it, her phone buzzed with another message from an unknown number. "I told you police can't help you." Emily backed away from the stairs. Then another message came. "I'm upstairs." Tears filled her eyes. "Leave me alone," she whispered. The footsteps suddenly stopped. The silence felt even worse. Then, from upstairs, she heard a man laughing softly. Emily immediately ran for the front door. But when she pulled it open, she stopped cold. A man was standing outside in the pouring rain. Tall. Wearing a dark hoodie. And in his hand was a photograph of Emily sleeping inside her bedroom. Emily screamed and slammed the front door shut. Her whole body shook as she locked it again and again, even though it was already locked. Outside, rain crashed against the house while thunder growled across the sky. The man did not knock. He did not speak. He just stood there holding the photograph. Emily backed away slowly, unable to breathe properly. Tears rolled down her face as she grabbed her phone and called Officer Reeves. He answered immediately. "Emily! He's here," she cried. "Oh my God, he's outside my house." "Stay calm," Daniel said quickly. "Lock yourself somewhere safe." "I'm on my way." Emily ran upstairs into the bathroom and locked the door behind her. She sat on the floor hugging her knees while listening carefully for sounds downstairs. For almost 1 minute, she heard nothing except rain. Then came the sound of breaking glass. Emily covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Someone had entered the house. Heavy footsteps moved slowly across the first floor. Not rushing. Not searching wildly. The person downstairs sounded calm. Like he knew exactly where she was. Daniel stayed on the phone with her while driving. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "Do not come out no matter what you hear." Emily nodded even though he could not see her. The footsteps reached the stairs. Thump, thump, thump. Each step felt louder than the last. Emily stared at the bathroom door as tears streamed down her cheeks. Then the footsteps stopped outside. Silence. A soft scratching sound came from the other side of the door. Very slow. Very gentle. Like fingernails sliding across wood. Emily shook so hard that her phone nearly slipped from her hand. Then the man spoke. "Emily," he whispered. "I just want to talk." His voice sounded calm. Almost friendly. That somehow made it worse. Daniel heard it too through the phone. "Police are almost there," he whispered urgently. "Stay quiet." The man outside the bathroom laughed softly. "I know you're talking to someone," he said. Emily squeezed her eyes shut. Then the bathroom doorknob slowly began turning. Back and forth. Back and forth. The lock rattled loudly. Emily looked around desperately for something to protect herself. Her eyes landed on a heavy metal towel rack beside the sink. She grabbed it tightly. The doorknob suddenly stopped moving. For 1 second, everything became silent again. Then bang! The door shook violently. Emily screamed. Another bang hit the door harder. Cracks spread through the wood. Downstairs, police sirens suddenly echoed outside the house. The banging stopped immediately. Emily heard fast footsteps running through the hallway upstairs. Then another crash downstairs. Daniel's voice exploded through the phone. "Emily! Officers are inside. Stay where you are." A few minutes later, police opened the bathroom door carefully and found Emily curled up in the corner crying uncontrollably. The man was gone. Officers searched the neighborhood for hours. Nothing. No footprints. No fingerprints. No sign of where he disappeared. But investigators found something else that terrified everyone even more. Inside Emily's bedroom closet, police discovered dozens of photographs. Pictures of Emily sleeping, cooking, watching television. Even pictures taken through her bathroom window. Some looked weeks old. Others seemed taken only hours earlier. Daniel stared at the photographs with growing horror. Whoever this man was, he had been watching Emily for a long time. Maybe even living inside the house without her knowing. The next morning, police placed Emily in a motel outside town for protection. Daniel sat across from her while she drank coffee with trembling hands. "You're safe here," he promised. Emily looked exhausted. "Did you find out who he is?" Daniel hesitated. "We checked the hidden cell phone." Emily looked up quickly. "There was only one thing on it," Daniel said quietly. "A single voice recording." He pulled out his phone. "You need to hear this." Daniel pressed play. At first, there was only static. Then a frightened male voice whispered, "If you find this phone, don't trust Emily Carter." Emily's face turned pale. "What?" The recording continued. "She lies," the man whispered weakly. "She already killed me." The audio suddenly ended. The motel room became completely silent. Emily stared at Daniel in shock. "That's not true," she whispered. Daniel studied her carefully for the first time since meeting her. Then he asked the question that changed everything. Emily, who exactly is Marcus Flynn? Emily's coffee cup slipped from her hand and shattered across the motel floor. For a moment, she just stared at Officer Reeves. Her lips trembled. "How do you know that name?" she whispered. Daniel did not answer right away. He pulled a small notebook from his jacket and opened it slowly. "The voice on the recording belongs to Marcus Flynn," he said. "We matched it with old police files this morning." Emily's face lost all color. Daniel leaned forward carefully. "You told us you lived alone. But Marcus Flynn disappeared 11 months ago." He paused. "And according to reports, he was your boyfriend." Emily suddenly stood up and walked toward the motel window. Rain fell outside in soft gray sheets while cars rushed past on the highway below. "I didn't kill him," she whispered. Daniel watched her closely. "Then tell me what happened." Emily wrapped her arms around herself tightly. "Marcus and I dated for 2 years," she began quietly. "At first he was sweet. Funny. Everybody liked him." Her voice began shaking again. "But then he changed." Daniel stayed silent while she spoke. "He got angry over little things. If I didn't answer my phone, he'd scream at me. If I talked to another man, he accused me of cheating." Tears filled her eyes. "Sometimes he followed me to work just to watch me." Daniel frowned. "Did he ever hurt you?" Emily looked down at the floor. "Yes." The room became quiet except for the sound of rain. "One night," she continued softly, "Marcus showed up drunk at my house. He kept yelling through the front door. I told him to leave, but he wouldn't stop." Emily's breathing grew uneven as the memory returned. "He broke a lamp. Then he grabbed my arm so hard it bruised." She pulled up her sleeve slightly, almost like she could still see the marks. "I called the police after he left." Daniel nodded slowly. There was already a report in the file about the incident. "So what happened after that?" Emily swallowed hard. "Marcus disappeared 3 days later." Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. "And you never saw him again?" Emily hesitated. That tiny pause made Daniel's stomach tighten. Before he could speak, Emily's phone suddenly buzzed on the table beside them. Both of them jumped. "Unknown number." Daniel grabbed the phone immediately. "Don't answer it," Emily whispered. But the phone stopped ringing before he could decide. A new voicemail appeared. Daniel pressed play carefully. At first, there was heavy breathing. Then came a man's voice. "Emily," the voice whispered weakly, "why won't you tell them where I am?" Emily backed against the wall, shaking her head wildly. "No, no." The voice continued. "You buried me where nobody would look." Daniel's face darkened. Then another voice suddenly appeared on the recording. A second man. Cold. "He's remembering now," the stranger said softly. The voicemail ended. Daniel stared at the phone. 2 voices. Marcus, and someone else. Emily began crying harder. "I swear I don't know who that second person is." Daniel believed she was terrified. But he no longer knew what to believe about anything else. A loud knock suddenly hit the motel door. Everyone froze. 3 hard knocks. Bang, bang, bang. Daniel slowly pulled out his gun. "Stay behind me." Another knock echoed through the room. Then a man's voice spoke from outside. "Room service." Daniel frowned immediately. They had not ordered food. He moved carefully toward the door and looked through the peephole. Nobody was there. The hallway outside was completely empty. Daniel slowly unlocked the door and opened it halfway. Nothing. Just silence. Then he looked down. A small cardboard box sat on the floor outside the room. Daniel carefully picked it up and carried it inside. Emily stared at it fearfully. "What is it?" Daniel opened the box slowly. Inside was a dirty old videotape, and beneath it sat something wrapped in plastic. Daniel pulled the plastic away carefully. Emily screamed. It was Marcus Flynn's driver's license, covered in dried blood. Daniel's phone rang at the exact same moment. "Dispatch." He answered immediately. A nervous dispatcher spoke quickly through the line. "Officer Reeves, We just got a 911 call connected to your location. Daniel frowned. What? The dispatcher's voice shook. A man called saying there's a dead body hidden inside room 214. Daniel slowly looked around the motel room. They were in room 214. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. Slowly, he lowered the phone from his ear and looked at Emily. She looked just as terrified as he felt. There's no body here, she whispered. Daniel motioned for her to stay quiet. Dispatch was still speaking through the phone. The caller refused to give his name, the dispatcher said nervously. But before hanging up, he said one more thing. Daniel swallowed hard. What did he say? The dispatcher hesitated. He said, check under the bed. The room suddenly felt ice cold. Emily backed away immediately. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Daniel slowly crouched beside the motel bed. His hand tightened around his gun as he reached down carefully and lifted the hanging blanket. For one horrible second, he saw nothing. Then his flashlight landed on something stuffed deep against the wall. A human hand. Emily screamed. Daniel quickly pulled the body out from under the bed while calling for backup. It was a man. Thin. Pale. Dead for several days. And there was no doubt who it was. Marcus Flynn. Emily collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel stared at the body in complete shock. That was impossible. Police records showed Marcus disappeared almost a year ago. But the body under the bed looked fresh. Too fresh. As officers rushed into the motel room minutes later, investigators noticed something even stranger. Marcus's fingernails were packed with dirt, like he had been buried somewhere underground. And on his wrist was a hospital bracelet dated only 4 days earlier. None of it made sense. Emily was taken back to the police station for questioning, while forensic teams searched the motel and her home again. 4 hours, detectives questioned her about Marcus. Finally, exhausted and shaking, Emily told them the full truth. The night Marcus disappeared, he came to her house drunk and furious. He accused her of ruining his life after she reported him to police. They argued badly. Marcus attacked her. During the struggle, Marcus fell down the basement stairs. He hit his head on the concrete floor below. Emily thought he was dead. Panicking, she called someone she trusted for help. A man named Richard Hale. Richard was an older security guard from the hospital where Emily worked. Quiet. Friendly. Always willing to help people. Too willing. He told me he'd take care of everything, Emily whispered through tears. Detectives quickly discovered something horrifying. Richard Hale had no family. No close friends. Almost nobody knew much about him. But police did find one disturbing thing in his small apartment. Hundreds of photographs. Not just of Emily. Of other women too. Sleeping. Walking alone. Inside their homes. Richard had been stalking people for years. Then investigators found videotapes hidden in a locked cabinet. One tape showed Marcus alive only days earlier. Weak. Confused. Locked inside a dark room. Richard's voice could be heard behind the camera. You should have stayed dead, he said coldly. The truth finally became clear. Marcus had survived the fall down the basement stairs. Before Emily could call for help, Richard arrived at the house. Instead of helping Marcus, Richard secretly kidnapped him and kept him hidden for months. He wanted Emily to depend on him, to fear him, to trust only him. And when Marcus finally tried escaping, Richard murdered him. The 911 calls. The stalking. The photographs. The messages. Richard had done all of it. But police still had one major problem. Richard Hale was missing. A statewide search began immediately. For 2 days, there was nothing. Then, late on the third night, police received another 911 call. The operator instantly recognized the voice. Richard. He sounded calm. Almost happy. I just wanted to hear her voice one last time, he whispered. Police traced the call to an abandoned farmhouse outside town and rushed there immediately. Inside the dark house, officers found candles burning in every room. Family photographs of Emily covered the walls. And sitting alone at the kitchen table was Richard Hale. Waiting. When officers entered, Richard smiled quietly. "She was supposed to be safe with me," he said. Then he reached into his pocket. Police tackled him before he could pull out the knife hidden inside. Richard Hale was arrested that night and later sentenced to life in prison without parole. But even years later, detectives still talked about Emily Carter's case. Especially that terrifying 911 call. Experienced investigators admitted there was something deeply disturbing about hearing a woman whisper in fear, "He's inside the house, but I already saw him die." And according to one retired detective, the part that haunted him most was not the screaming, not the threats, not even the murder. It was the quiet scratching sound in the background of the call. Because investigators later discovered exactly what caused it. Richard Hale had been standing outside Emily's bedroom door the entire time, slowly dragging his fingernails across the wood while listening to her beg for help.